there's obviously among Kurds there are many different ideologies, but the ones that are the most famous are the communists and Rojava, right?
Yeah,
So we have different obvious, like, I don't want to basically say when it comes to Kurds in Syria, I don't want to basically act like they're all think the same. Obviously, some of them are religious Sunni, some of them there's
yeah,
all types of Kurds. There's all types of Kurds, right?
right.
But but the Kurds in Syria, the ones who got the most attention, they're either communists, or even if they're not communists, they're communist leaning. You know what I mean? Like they
Mhm.
have those. But yeah, those are the people who come to my mind. I know that. I mean, even I think this is something that Jewish Samantha also has information about, because I know that the Kurdish communists in Syria are a huge inspiration to communists worldwide. Like, because
Mm.
there's nothing in the world to point to say like this is our utopia, like this. Because I mean, at least when the Muslims, when they
China.
want to bring back.
China's used as the point too, as this is communist utopia.
Yeah, yeah, but I'm talking about actual communism. China is obviously state capitalism, right? And honestly, Samantha, the cult that you were in, they were a special kind of retard, because most communists that I talk to, they don't consider China to be communist. Okay, so I don't know that that cult is like so far off, even like it's even too far off for most commies. But what was I saying? But among the commies I know, they the only place they could point to be like, oh, this is what we have in mind when we're talking about communism, was the Syrian Kurds in Rojava. Yeah, what I was saying is, at least the Muslims, when they want to point to something that they like, they're trying to the world order that they have in mind. They either go to the what they call the golden age of Islam, or if they're actually more properly Muslim, they will go to the Medina under Muhammad himself. Like that's what they want, right? But they want to bring a caliphate or an imamate or something like that.
Yep.
People
Old
obviously do use a lot of the Kurds. I mean,
Kurds.
it generally there's like this generational thing where like older people will point to like what Russia was at one point, but until like a lot of people were like very pro Trotsky and feel like Trotsky should have gotten was pushed aside and say like, like the Soviet Union, the earlier days was very well put together. And that's like an older thing, and a younger thing is like, more Maoism in China. But yeah, Kurds definitely are also used as an example in Syria.
In northern Syria, the dominant political force, or the PYD, and its military wing YPG, it's not strictly communist, but they are basically not in the traditional Soviet sense, right? But they are communists, but their own type of communists.
Yep.
So yeah.
Venezuela and
Yep.
Cuba also get held up as like examples of like, you know,
Yes.
like especially Cuba. Yeah, no. Like people really think that life is great in Cuba.
So it says they now follow what they call democratic confederalism, inspired by American anarchist and socialist Murray Bookchin. So rather than
I see.
looking at the communism of the Soviet Union, they're looking at this socialist anarchist guy, this American socialist anarchist guy. That is apparently their main source of inspiration.
That's why I wanted to ask, because I know the different groups believe different things. They're not a monolith, and of course the Iranian Kurds are their own thing, and they want nothing to do with these motherfuckers. It's so
Yeah.
because they're they're Iranian first, and they're pro Shah. So I mean they'll take up arms against any Kurdish separatists trying to carve up their country. And that's a
So
fact.
this is what they want in Rojava. Okay, so this is the difference between the traditional communism, like the Soviet communism, and Rojava. Okay, so traditional Soviet communism had centralized state-run society, but the Syrian Kurdish ideology in Rojava is decentralized local councils. So the traditional communism uses the state to transition to the communist utopia. but the Rojava model abolished or bypassed the state completely. So the
Hmm.
traditional communism is often nationalist led, but the Syrian Kurdish ideology in Rojava, they're officially anti-nationalist and or they want autonomy.
Hmm.
The core pillar of traditional communism is class struggle, but the core pillar of the Syrian Kurdish socialists is women's liberation and ecology. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Wait, we gotta go. We gotta go quickly because we have only a few 15 minutes left, I think.
Yeah.
Samantha is next.
Yeah. Thanks, Armin.
Okay.
Okay. I was gonna say, I think I've recently heard that Mohammadi, like, had, like, what's it called? Was a victim of an acid attack. I don't know if you know if that's true or not. I'm hearing her name being dropped a lot more suddenly, especially from, like, leftists. I don't know if, like, you have any knowledge of why that's happening.
Where are you seeing this?
Various places. That
How recently? That's actually
very recent.
important to know.
Very
Okay.
recent, but, like, her name is suddenly, like, spiking in places.
Okay. I don't
Like
know how she could be part of an acid attack if she's because she's in prison.
or,
She
like, I don't
hasn't
know,
been.
either an acid attack or was injured in, like, some sort of atta it's saying that, like, it happened to her a while ago, like, or something.
No, okay. I think so. Somebody might be making stuff up just to increase their profile. All right. So let me actually give context to the people here. So Narges Mohammadi is considered to be by many Iranians to be fake opposition created by the Islamic Republic as a way to dismiss the leadership of Prince Reza Pahlavi. She she's in jail. She has better prison conditions than many other people compared, like for example, especially compared to like somebody like Fatima Separi who's pro Pahlavi. So it's actually a famous thing, like it's a very commonly known thing in prisons in Iran, that if you're pro Pahlavi, you get the worst treatment in prison in Iran. But if you're one of the people who's against the Islamic Republic, and the Islamic Republic can use you as a way to challenge Princess of Pahlavi's leadership, then you will have the best treatment in prison. So, for example, Narges Mohammadi is famous for gaining weight in prison and being able to have parties and dance. And she also was the Islamic Republic also arranged for her to have an interview with Angelina Jolie while she was in prison, which is Narges Mohammadi doesn't even get to talk to her son when she's in prison. She got the Nobel Peace Prize. The Islamic Republic is famous for the past couple of decades using its lobby groups and people that they have connections to leftists in the world to add to the resume of the people who they want as their opposition to themselves. It's basically controlled opposition. And Nargis Mohammadi, the Iranian people hate three things, which is the mullahs, the leftists, and the MK. And for somehow Nargis Mohammadi has managed to have connections to all three of them. So she represents all the three things that the Iranian people hate. Right before the Lion and Sun Revolution, Nargis Mohammadi came out in a protest that people were having in Mashhad because a pro Pahlavi person, was killed by the Islamic Republic, and Nargis Mohammadi just show up there trying to hijack that protest. And the people in Mashhad in Iran started chanting against her, saying death to the three corruptions, the mullahs, the leftist, the MK, pointing at her, which showed that inside, like we were right outside of Iran, that she's not wanted by the Iranian people, because a lot of people, the Islamic Republic tries to suggest to everybody that the Iranians outside of Iran and the Iranians inside Iran are divided. But and so many times when we point these things out, people say like, oh, these are just the Iranians inside outside of Iran. The Iranians inside Iran obviously will support somebody like Nargis Mohammadi. So these protests against her showed that we were right about this, that she doesn't have like like as soon as she showed up, the entire crowd started chanting against her. There was another woman, what was her name? Mm, Let me see. Hold on.
Nasrin
Taroneh.
Sotoudeh, uh,
Nasrin said today was no Taroneh, I think.
Ali
Taroneh.
Dosti, you mean? Tarane Ali
Ali Dusi.
Dosti?
Yes.
Nasrin
So
Sotoudeh was also promoted by France,
yes.
and she's a fake too.
Yes, yes, but she's like an old timer. But Taran Ali Dusti was the most recent attempt of the Islamic Republic to push to us as our as the leader of the opposition, using BBC Persian, by the way, which is an arm of the reformist part section of the Islamic Republic. So BBC Persian was trying to push her to us as the new opposition leader, and the Iranian people immediately figured out what's happening, and they rejected her. So if you're hearing Narges Mohammadi again, it shows that I haven't seen that, but if you're hearing it a lot, I mean, she's completely irrelevant among Iranians. But maybe the Islamic Republic tries to convince that foreigners, non-Iranians, that this is the if you hate me, this is the person you should be talking to. And the reason why they do that is because they're trying to take attention and support away from Prince Reza Pahlavi.
I'm just gonna say I've seen her like trending a lot, very like literally within the last few hours and like very far left of spaces.
my my guess would be that the Islamic Republic must be desperate to push her hard right now. So this might be the Islamic Republic right now spending money on trending her, using bots, contacting the leftist sources, think tanks, like very like they must be very desperate to they see the Pahlavi as their greatest threat. And given that they're seeing that the coming of Pahlavi closer and closer, maybe this if this is happening, in my opinion, it must be a push by the Islamic Republic. Okay.
Okay, next I will bring in Kate.
Okay. I just have a question because I'm American and Christian, so I never really cared about what was going on in the Middle East. It just wasn't my concern in my childhood. And so when I watched what was going on in Gaza, I had a very unbiased view of it. And there was a lot of propaganda, I feel like, that was spread by Hamas showing dead bodies of like kids and people and stuff and waving them around. And I haven't seen that go on with the Iranian regime right now. And I'm wondering why. Like, do they just not have enough money to do that or enough people to support it? Like, does that make sense?
Like you like Pallywood kind of stuff?
Well, like, you would always see like some lady like cry with a baby in her arms that wasn't actually a baby and
Right.
no tears were coming out of her eyes constantly. Like
We have
every
those.
time you
We have
checked.
we
Go
have
on.
them. It's just no, we have those videos right now coming out from the Islamic Republic, but not as many because in Gaza that has turned into an industry, right? They have been working on that for decades. So that's its own business model. Like you have to give them some time. I don't know if they're gonna have time, but you need to give them a couple of decades of having to go through this for them to be able to do it. But we have seen those videos. I've seen videos of and people have identified who they are. Like we have seen a couple, but given how there's an entire structure in Gaza for this, like people, there are people who are dedicated their entire lives to create videos like that from Gaza, right? So the Islamic Republic has just been caught off guard for some reason, and they're busy right now trying to not die, right? So there are some people who are making those videos, and we've seen it. I mean, there was this woman with the with the blanket as a hijab and holding the natural balaghe with bare feet in the street crying, and somebody came on top of to her saying like, oh, was your house, the first question they asked her, was your house next to a military base? It was so obvious. And then people found her picture and they saw that she was part of many regime propaganda videos before. So obvious, like they couldn't, like they don't even have enough actresses that they had to use somebody so obvious that we already have videos of her acting in another video. Like that's how desperate they are that they use the same person that was so easily debunked. But we saw a couple of videos. It's not in the same scale of Gaza, I mean, right now it's like absolute chaos among the Islamic Republic. Like nobody knows what's like. If you see a video like that, somebody just managed to decide to do that by themselves. But there's no centralization. There's no command structure. Everybody's running for their lives. So that's the reason why you're not going to see it at the same scale. Like in Gaza, this had turned into an industry. In the Islamic Republic, this is something that they might get better at if they had a couple of years. Those are the reasons. Did I answer your question? Does that make sense? Kate?
There's a reason we call it Pallywood.
Yeah, Pallywood, because it's an industry.
It's an industry now makes sense because like it was like they were churning out stuff constant. I don't want to say churning out. I don't know what happened, but it seemed like to me they were churning out constant media talking points. And the only thing that I've seen so far was like at maybe it was a school, probably not, but maybe it was. And like this dude was waving around this kid's arm, and I'm like, really? Like that's how you're.
So,
Never mind.
Kate, what I'm afraid of is because the Islamic Republic is very desperate, they might actually just instead of like faking it, they might actually go bomb a school themselves and not fake it. That's what I'm worried about. And just
I
have
wouldn't put it
actually children. Yeah, they might actually go and just bomb the school themselves and have actual pieces of children on camera instead of faking it. That's what I'm afraid of.
You answered my question. I'm afraid of it too, and I hope
Yeah.
the war part is over with very quickly.